On a quiet Kentucky morning, the mist clings to the sprawling tobacco fields, and the old barn at the edge of the plantation casts long, dark shadows. Inside those shadows, a young enslaved woman named Martha hides a secret no one else could ever imagine. She risked everything, her life, her freedom, to protect the master's son from a danger that would change his life forever. Stay with us as we uncover her story of courage, defiance, and survival. And if you love history like this, don't forget to like, share, subscribe for more, and hit the bell icon. The sun rises over the rolling fields of the Kentucky plantation, spilling a soft, golden light across the tobacco leaves, glinting on the worn wooden fences. The air is heavy with the smell of damp earth and hay, carrying the faint creak of wagon wheels and the distant clatter of tools. Martha is already awake, long before the master or his overseers stir. She moves silently through the quarters, her bare feet pressing against the cool, rough wood of the floorboards, careful not to wake the others. Every step is a calculated risk. One wrong sound, one misstep, and punishment could come crashing down without mercy. Life, as an enslaved woman, is never easy. And for Martha, it is a relentless rhythm of work, vigilance, and quiet endurance. From the moment the rooster crows, she labors in the fields, bending over the rows of tobacco, her hands blistered and calloused from years of toil. She carries water, tends the crops, gathers firewood, and sometimes mends the clothing of the master's family. Her muscles ache, her back screams, yet she moves with a careful precision born of necessity. Every day, the plantation seems to hum with tension, the overseer's whip cracking across the morning air, the master's boots thudding across the porch, a faint echo of fearful whispers among the quarters. But Martha is more than just her labor. She is observant, quietly calculating the movements of those around her, learning the patterns and weaknesses of the people who hold power over her. She notices the way the overseer's eyes flick toward the barn when a child ventures too close, the way the master frowns at a missing tool, the faint tremor in the hands of a frightened boy who dared to speak out of turn. These details, small as they may seem, are survival tools. In a place where a single mistake can lead to a lash, an accusation, or worse, knowledge is life. Amid the grueling days, Martha finds brief moments of solace. She pauses beneath the shade of an old oak tree, listening to the soft hum of cicadas and the distant clucking of hens. She exchanges quiet glances and muted smiles with other enslaved workers, sharing a wordless understanding that binds them together in hardship. These fleeting moments remind her that she is not invisible, that her mind, her courage, and her compassion cannot be taken, no matter what the plantation demands of her body. Yet, despite these small reprieves, fear is always near. The plantation master is strict, his justice swift and cruel, and even the smallest act of defiance could lead to punishment. Martha has seen women beaten for a broken dish, men whipped for stepping out of line, children punished for wandering too far. Every shadow holds potential danger. Every creak of the floor, every whisper carries the possibility of betrayal. And still, she persists silent, watchful, and determined. In the midst of this harsh and unforgiving world, Martha moves with purpose. She knows every inch of the plantation, the barn at the edge of the field, the hidden paths behind the quarters, the corners where the overseer rarely looks. This knowledge will soon become more than survival. It will become a lifeline. For one young boy, the master's son, her courage and wits will be the difference between life and death. The master's son, a boy of no more than 10, is often seen wandering the plantation grounds, his golden hair catching the sun, his small hands trailing along the edges of the fence. He is the heir, born into a world that offers him safety and privilege, yet his innocence blinds him to the dangers that lurk behind every shadow. To him, the fields are playgrounds, the barn a giant castle, and the quarters of the enslaved merely a backdrop to his adventures. But to Martha, every step he takes is fraught with peril. Every careless laugh carries the risk of tragedy. From the moment she first noticed him, Martha felt a mixture of curiosity and caution. The boy is not cruel or demanding. He is simply a child, and yet he represents everything that the plantation system has built: power, entitlement, and danger. She watches him quietly, noting how he lingers too long near the horses, how he chases the chickens through the yard, how his small fingers reach for things that are forbidden. In another life, perhaps she might have been able to laugh at his antics, to enjoy the brief amusement they bring. But life on the plantation is not forgiving, and one misstep could end in punishment, or worse, Dot. It is during one of these innocent wanderings that disaster nearly strikes. The boy, drawn by the bright sunlight reflecting off a metal tool, steps too close to the edge of the barn where the overseer's attention rarely falls. A loose plank shifts beneath his foot, threatening to send him tumbling into the shadows below. Martha is there in an instant, her heart hammering, her breath caught in her throat. With a swift motion born of instinct, she catches his arm, steadying him before he falls. His wide eyes meet hers, filled with surprise and gratitude, yet he does not speak. Perhaps he cannot fully understand the danger he just escaped, or perhaps he senses the quiet authority in her gaze. This moment, small as it may seem, changes everything. Martha realizes that the boy is vulnerable, that the plantation's rules and cruelty do not spare even children. She also realizes something deeper: an unspoken connection forms between them. He is a child in need of protection, and she, though enslaved and powerless in the eyes of the law, has the knowledge, courage, and heart to keep him safe. Every instinct she has honed over years of survival now points her toward one inevitable truth: she must act. She must hide him if danger comes too close, even if it means risking her own life. A master's son, oblivious to the peril of the world around him, continues to explore the plantation as if it were his private kingdom. Martha, however, knows the truth. She understands the hidden threats, the sharp words, the swinging whip, the unforgiving punishments that lie behind the sunlit facade. She watches over him quietly, a silent guardian moving through the shadows, always alert, always calculating. Dot, and so a plan begins to form in her mind. She knows the old barn better than anyone, its corners and hidden spaces memorized from years of observation. In her mind, she can already see the perfect place to hide him, a sanctuary where no one would think to look, a place that could keep him safe from the dangers of a world that cares little for life beyond its own power. Martha's resolve hardens. The boy, innocent and unknowing, is about to teach her a lesson she will never forget: that courage is not the absence of fear, but the quiet determination to act in spite of it. One late afternoon, as the sun dipped low behind the rolling hills of the Kentucky countryside, the plantation began to stir with the uneasy rhythm of the day's end. The master's son, curious and unafraid, wandered farther than usual, chasing the flutter of a butterfly across the golden fields. Martha, working nearby, noticed immediately. Her heart clenched as she watched him step too close to the edge of the barn's shadowed corner, place she knew was treacherous. The old wood was rotting, some planks barely holding, and a sudden misstep could send the boy tumbling into a hidden pit below. Her eyes darted around. The overseer was nearby, his back turned as he inspected a broken fence post. If he saw the boy fall, blame would surely follow, and Martha feared what punishment might be exacted on her for failing to prevent it. Years of life on the plantation had taught her that cruelty was never far away, that innocence meant little when measured against property and power. She moved with quiet urgency, her bare feet slipping silently through the soft dirt, until she was close enough to reach him. "Careful," she whispered, her voice low but firm. The boy froze, startled by the sudden presence, and turned toward her. Martha extended her hand, steadying him just as a loose plank gave way beneath his small foot. For a heartbeat, the world seemed to stop. The plank groaned, threatening collapse, and the boy's wide eyes mirrored fear he had never known before. Martha's grip tightened, her own pulse pounding in her ears, and she pulled him back to solid ground. The danger, however, was far from over. Moments later, the overseer's whistle cut sharply through the air, and the boy's absence could no longer be ignored. Panic surged through Martha. She knew discovery could mean a lash, a reprimand, or worse. She scanned the surroundings and realized that the only safe place nearby was the barn itself. The shadows within its walls, which had always seemed ominous, now offered refuge, a secret sanctuary from the immediate threat. Martha's mind raced. She knew hiding the boy would be risky. The master's son was his father's heir, and anyone found harboring him could face brutal consequences. Yet, the alternative, allowing him to remain exposed, was unthinkable. Her courage, honed through years of watching, surviving, and learning the patterns of the plantation, guided her next move. With quiet determination, she led the boy toward the barn, her hand gripping his tightly. Each step was measured, every sound potentially betraying them both. As they slipped into the barn's dark interior, Martha's heart pounded with a mix of fear and resolve. She knew the shadows could conceal them, but they could just as easily reveal them. She whispered to the boy, her voice soft but commanding, "Stay close, don't speak, and trust me." In that moment, a silent pact was made, a bond forged in danger, secrecy, and the shared understanding of life's fragility on the plantation. For Martha, the threat was not just the boy's potential injury. It was the harsh, unrelenting world that would punish them both if discovered. Yet, even as fear tightened its grip, her resolve deepened. She would protect him, whatever the cost, and in that decision, the story of courage and defiance against unimaginable odds began to unfold. The barn was dim, filled with the scent of hay, earth, and aged wood. Dust motes floated in the slanting sunlight that filtered through cracks in the roof, and the quiet hum of cicadas outside was the only sound. Martha led the boy deeper into the shadows, her mind racing. Every corner, every stack of barrels and hay bales, every creaking board could be a hiding spot, but each also held the danger of discovery. One wrong choice, and both of their lives could be at risk. Martha paused near a large stack of hay, pressing the boy close to her side. His wide eyes followed her every movement, filled with curiosity and trust. She knelt down, brushing a loose strand of hair from his forehead, and whispered softly, "You must stay quiet. Do exactly as I say. Can you do that?" The boy nodded, his small hand clutching hers. In that moment, Martha felt the full weight of responsibility settle on her shoulders. She was no longer just a worker on this plantation. She was a guardian, and failure was not an option. Her mind replayed years of observing the barn. She remembered the loose floorboard in the northeast corner, the hollow space behind the old feed barrels, the way shadows stretched and shifted depending on the sun. One place stood out, a small alcove hidden behind a stack of hay, barely noticeable, just enough to conceal a child. It was far from the main doors and windows, a space that anyone walking past would overlook entirely. She had studied it before, imagining it as a secret refuge in moments of danger. Now that imagination became reality. Martha gently guided the boy toward the alcove. Every step required caution. The barn floor groaned under their weight, and her heart leapt at every sound. She placed him inside, arranging loose hay around him to shield him from sight. "Stay very still," she whispered again, her voice almost drowned by the faint creak of the barn and the soft breeze moving through the slats. The boy's small body trembled slightly, but he obeyed, trusting her completely. For Martha, the danger was immediate and personal. If the overseer or the master came looking, hiding the heir would be seen as an act of defiance, punishable by severe measures. She could be whipped, confined, or worse, her life, her freedom, even her very existence could be threatened. And yet, in the face of fear, something remarkable stirred within her: courage. She had survived the brutality of the plantation for years, and she had learned that courage was not the absence of fear, but the ability to act despite it. She gathered a few small items, a piece of bread, a jar of water, and a cloth, and placed them within reach of the boy. Her movements were deliberate, careful, almost ritualistic, as if performing a silent prayer for their safety. Every glance at the barn doors, every creak of the roof, reminded her of the stakes. Each moment in the shadows was a gamble, but she refused to let fear control her. The boy's life depended on her resolve. Not Martha took one last look around the barn, committing every detail to memory. The path she had taken, the hiding spot, the potential entrances anyone might use. Her mind worked like a map, charting every risk, every escape, every precaution. And as she stepped back, her heart still racing, she whispered, almost to herself, "I will protect you, no matter what comes." In that moment, the old barn became more than wood and hay. It became a sanctuary, a battleground, and a testament to quiet heroism. Martha had made her decision, and the course of events to come would test her courage in ways she could never have imagined. The barn became a world unto itself, a small, shadowed kingdom where the boy existed in silence, and Martha moved like a shadow among the hay and barrels. Each day followed a delicate rhythm, a careful choreography of survival. Martha would rise before dawn, tending to her own labor in the fields, while keeping one watchful eye on the barn and the boy hidden within. The sounds of the plantation, the clatter of wagons, the bark of dogs, the sharp crack of the overseer's whip, were a constant reminder of the danger that pressed against the thin walls of their sanctuary. Inside the barn, the boy learned quickly. He did not speak unless spoken to. He did not reach beyond the hay that concealed him. Each movement was measured, each sound considered. At first, fear made him stiff, trembling at the slightest noise. But Martha's presence was steady and reassuring. She would crouch beside him, smoothing his hair back, offering a sip of water, a piece of bread, or a quiet word of comfort. "You are safe now," she would whisper. "I am here. Do not be afraid." Her calm, unwavering voice became a lifeline, a tether to sanity in a world that threatened to swallow him whole. Martha's days were filled with tension and vigilance. She would scan the plantation repeatedly, noting the movements of the overseer and the master, timing their routines, listening for approaching boots or the distant sound of whips. Each day, she mapped escape routes in her mind, memorized shadows and safe spaces, and adjusted her plan for the boy's safety. A misplaced step, a creaking plank, even a stray animal could expose their secret. Every day was a test, and every day she passed it with quiet determination. Yet amidst the fear and tension, a bond grew between them. The boy, despite his youth and privilege, began to understand the quiet strength and intelligence of Martha. He listened to her stories of the fields, of people who had lived long before him, and learned lessons of survival and caution. Martha, in turn, observed the boy's curiosity, his small acts of kindness, and his resilience. In that darkened barn, an unlikely friendship formed, one of trust, understanding, and shared endurance. Time became a blur of shadows and muted sounds. Days merged into nights as Martha continued her work outside, always returning to check on him. She would crouch beside the hay, whispering instructions, bringing morsels of food and water, and ensuring he remained hidden. The barn was cramped and suffocating, yet it became a place of protection, a fragile cocoon against the harsh realities of the plantation. Every day that passed without discovery was a small victory, a testament to her cunning and bravery. Still, the fear never fully lifted. The slightest noise could betray them. A sudden shout from the fields, a careless step, the turning of a key in the master's house, all were enough to send a shiver down Martha's spine. She never allowed herself to relax, her mind constantly alert, calculating, anticipating. Yet in this constant vigilance, she discovered something profound. Courage is quiet, persistent, and relentless. It is the willingness to face the unimaginable without flinching, to act despite the fear, to protect life when the world seems bent on destroying it. In the shadows of the barn, life continued in its own rhythm of survival, of silent courage, and of a bond that defied the cruelty of the plantation. The boy remained hidden, yet alive, growing stronger, learning patience, and understanding the true weight of the world outside. And Martha, steadfast and unyielding, became not just his protector, but the living embodiment of courage in a world designed to crush it. The sun had barely risen when the first sounds of danger echoed across the plantation. A wagon rattled closer to the barn, its wheels crunching over the gravel with an urgency that set Martha's heart racing. She froze mid-step, eyes darting toward the hay where the boy was concealed. He stiffened at her sudden pause, his small body trembling with an instinctive fear that mirrored her own. Every muscle in her body tensed. This was the moment she had dreaded, an unexpected approach that could unravel everything she had worked to protect. From the corner of the barn, Martha could hear the overseer's heavy boots, slow and deliberate, moving closer. He carried a lantern, swinging it occasionally, casting shifting beams of light across the interior. Each flicker illuminated a patch of the barn, revealing the dust, the tools, the stacked hay, and every potential hiding place Martha had so carefully chosen. Her breath caught as the light fell dangerously close to the boy's alcove. The shadows that had once been a sanctuary now seemed alive, threatening to betray him. Martha's mind raced. Years of observing the plantation and anticipating danger had prepared her for many things, but nothing could calm the surge of adrenaline in her veins at this precise moment. She signaled silently to the boy, placing a finger to her lips and holding her hand over his small one to keep him steady. "Stay completely still," she whispered, her voice barely audible over the creak of the wagon and the shuffle of boots. His wide eyes reflected the beam of the lantern, but he obeyed, understanding that his very life depended on her guidance. The overseer's lantern bobbed closer, and the scent of his tobacco smoke filled the barn, mingling with the hay. Martha pressed herself flat against a stack of barrels, holding her breath as the beams swept past the boy's hiding place. Every second felt like an eternity. The boy's shallow breaths mingled with her own, and for a moment Martha feared that even that sound might give them away. Yet she remained still, calculating the rhythm of the overseer's steps, waiting for the perfect moment to act if needed. A sharp shout outside made her flinch, and the overseer paused, glancing toward the barn door. Martha seized the moment, inching herself and the boy slightly farther into the alcove, deeper into the shadows, where the lantern could not reach. She held him close, feeling his tiny heart hammering against her side. The risk was immense. One misstep, one flicker of light, and both their lives could be destroyed. Finally, after what felt like endless minutes, the overseer moved on, muttering under his breath about missing tools and creaking doors. The tension slowly eased, though the pounding of Martha's heart remained. She waited until the barn was silent again, until the threat had passed beyond earshot, before allowing herself to release her grip and brush a hand across the boy's damp hair. "It's over," she whispered softly. "You're safe. For now." That day, Martha realized the true weight of her role. Every act of courage carried immense risk. Every decision could mean life or death. Yet even under the most immediate threat, she had remained calm, resourceful, and determined. The barn, once merely a place of work and storage, had become a fortress. And within its shadows, Martha's resolve was stronger than ever. ready to face whatever new dangers the plantation would send their way. The sun was just beginning to dip below the horizon when the day's tension finally eased. The barn, once alive with the possibility of discovery, was quiet. Martha had maintained her vigilance for hours, every nerve alert, every step calculated. Now, as shadows stretched long across the fields, she allowed herself a brief moment to breathe, though her mind remained wary. She knew the danger had not entirely passed. The plantation was unpredictable, and even one small misstep could undo everything. The master's son, now hidden safely behind the hay in the alcove, had remained perfectly still, following every instruction Martha had given him. He had learned, in a matter of hours, the value of patience and quiet. Martha observed him, noting the faint tremor in his hands, the rapid rise and fall of his chest, and the wide, fearful eyes that still searched for threats in the dim light. She crouched beside him and whispered, "Soon it will be safe." Just a little longer. Her words were calm, but inside, her heart raced with a mixture of relief and lingering fear. Martha had a plan one she had carefully considered in the quiet hours of the afternoon. She would wait until the overseer and the master were occupied elsewhere, distracted by the approaching evening routines. Then she would lead the boy to a more secure location, a small, hidden shed at the far edge of the plantation, where no one ever ventured. It was a place she knew intimately, mapped in her memory through years of observation, and she trusted that it could keep him safe until the danger passed entirely. The moment came when the overseer's attention shifted to a broken fence, and the master called for him elsewhere. Martha motioned silently to the boy, guiding him through the shadows with gentle hands and quiet words of reassurance. Every step was measured, every creak of the barn floor held a potential threat, yet she moved with confidence born of necessity. The boy followed, trusting her completely, unaware of the full danger he had narrowly escaped. Finally, they reached the small shed. Martha ushered the boy inside, arranging hay and old cloth to make the space as comfortable and concealed as possible. She handed him a small piece of bread and a sip of water, watching him eat in cautious silence. Relief washed over her, not complete relief, but enough to steady her hands and allow a brief exhale. In that quiet moment, Martha allowed herself a reflection. She had risked her life to protect another, and though the world would never formally recognize her bravery, she had acted with courage that few could imagine. The master's son was safe for now, shielded from danger by the vigilance, intelligence, and determination of a woman the world had tried to render powerless. As she stepped back, listening to the faint rustle of hay and the soft evening wind outside, Martha felt a quiet pride. Her act of defiance, her commitment to life and protection, was invisible to most, yet monumental in its impact. The barn, once merely a storage place, had become a sanctuary, and in its shadows, Martha had proven that courage does not always roar. It sometimes moves quietly, with deliberate steps, in the service of what is right. As the sun fully sank below the horizon, casting the Kentucky plantation in a soft, fading light, the barn stood silent. Its weathered wood, creaking in the gentle evening breeze, seemed to hold the secrets of countless live stories of labor, fear, resilience, and courage. Among them was the story of Martha, a young enslaved woman whose quiet heroism had ensured the safety of the master's son. Though history often overlooks such acts, her bravery remains etched in the shadows she once called her sanctuary. Martha's actions were more than a single act of protection. They were a testament to the strength of the human spirit. In a world built on oppression and cruelty, she found a way to assert her agency, to protect life when the forces around her demanded obedience and silence. Every glance she cast, every careful step she took, every risk she bore was an assertion of her courage. She acted not for recognition, not for reward, but because she understood the value of life, the weight of responsibility, and the quiet power of conscience. The boy she protected may never have fully comprehended the danger he faced, and history may never remember his name or hers, but the lessons remain. Courage is not always loud. Heroism is not always celebrated. Often, it exists in quiet, deliberate acts, performed when no one is watching, carried out with the knowledge that discovery could mean punishment or death. Martha exemplified this truth. She transformed fear into careful strategy, vigilance into protection, and risk into life-saving action. Her story also reflects a broader truth about the countless unnamed individuals who lived under slavery. Each day, countless men and women performed small acts of resistance, risked their safety to protect others, and nurtured hope in a world designed to crush it. These acts may have gone unnoticed by the wider world, but their impact was profound, preserving life, dignity, and humanity against impossible odds. Martha's courage serves as a symbol of that enduring resilience, a reminder that even in the darkest circumstances, individuals can choose to act with honor, compassion, and bravery. As we close this story, we are left with an image of the old barn, quiet and unassuming, yet filled with history, courage, and the invisible footprints of a woman who dared to protect life in the shadows. Her legacy is not written in textbooks or plaques, but in the lessons she leaves behind: vigilance, compassion, and the unwavering strength to act in the face of fear. If Martha's story moved you, remember the countless others whose quiet courage shaped history in ways we may never fully see. Share their stories, reflect on their sacrifices, and honor their legacy by carrying forward the values of bravery, resilience, and compassion. And as always, if you want to uncover more hidden stories from our nation's past, make sure to like, share, and subscribe. History lives not only in monuments, but in the whispers of the brave and the shadows of the forgotten.